Imagine if your entire career could crumble from just a rumor. Sounds intense, right? Well, that's exactly what could have happened if you were a star in the golden age of Hollywood. I'm Antonia Carlotta, and this is Universally Me, the channel for all things Universal. My Uncle Carl Laemmle started Universal, and I'm carrying on his work and his legacy through this channel. It all spiraled out of control in April of 1921 with a man named Fatty Arbuckle. Fatty Arbuckle was one of the most famous comedic actors, and he was one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. And after a night out in San Francisco, he was accused of raping and murdering actress Virginia Rappe, and it was a media frenzy. There was already this perception that Hollywood was this morally corrupt land of heathens. Many states were forming censorship boards to try to keep the public safe from Hollywood corruption and films that might lead poor innocent souls astray. And this whole scandal with Fatty Arbuckle, it didn't help. And even though Fatty Arbuckle was eventually acquitted, the damage was done. Hollywood's reputation was at stake, its whole business was at stake, and something had to change. Enter the Morals Clause. Carl Laemmle at Universal was the very first to use one. To Uncle Carl, a studio head who was always very budget conscious, a morals clause was a no-brainer. He needed to protect his investments from the unpredictable behavior of his stars, because if one of his stars was wrapped up in a scandal, he could lose his money on every single movie they were a part of. His first morals clause said, "The actor agrees to conduct himself with due regard to public conventions and morals, and agrees that he will not do or commit anything tending to degrade him in society, or bring him into public hatred, contempt, scorn, or ridicule, or tending to shock, insult, or offend the community, or outrage public morals or decency, or tending to the prejudice of the Universal Film Manufacturing Company or the motion picture industry. In the event that the actor violates any term or provision of this paragraph, then the Universal Film Manufacturing Company has the right to cancel and annul this contract by giving 5 days notice to the actor of its intention to do so." Uncle Carl only doubled down in 1922 with the still unsolved murder of William Desmond Taylor. William Desmond Taylor had been found one morning in his house having been shot, and the investigation revealed a sordid backstory and a surprising number of suspects. In response, Carl Laemmle said, "$100 million American dollars invested in moving pictures are endangered by the acts of a dozen or so wastrels and degenerates. 99% of the film personnel is clean and sound. We do not intend to allow the infinitesimal minority to wreck the business. No producer wants to employ people like that. They will be lopped off like rotten branches. There is nothing wrong with Hollywood. The trouble lies only with a very few degenerates. I think so much of Hollywood that I'm going to build a home there, and I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I have no fear that anything in Hollywood will influence her wrongfully." It didn't take long for the other studios to jump on board. Morals clauses became pretty common. Gloria Swanson had one added to her contract after her divorce when she was accused of having affairs with 13 different men. And on the other side of things, it made news when Clara Bow in 1926 negotiated not to have a morals clause in her contract with Paramount. Morals clauses soon spread beyond Hollywood. When baseball legend Babe Ruth was renegotiating his contract, his personal life, which was full of drinking and wild nights, prompted his team to demand one. And there were a few years where morals clauses were taken really seriously. Cecil B. DeMille even made additions to his morals clause that prohibited divorce and restricted the roles that actors could take after his films. But as time went on, these clauses became more of a formality. They lost their bite. Studios were still including them in contracts, but actors knew that they probably weren't going to get fired for some minor transgression. But the studio still kept them, I guess, as an insurance policy that they could use if they needed. So was that the end of the morality clause, just a set it and forget it kind of thing? Well, of course not. Enter the 1940s. We're in a new era of morality policing as the United States is plunging into paranoia around communism. The infamous Hollywood blacklist saw actors, writers, directors, and other film professionals fired for their alleged communist ties, most notably the Hollywood 10. Their careers were destroyed because of a combination of public suspicion and morals clauses that gave studios a legal basis to fire them. The Red Scare didn't last forever, but even in the 60s, Universal was still adding morals clauses into its contracts. And the language was basically the same as its classic clause, that a morals offense was anything that had no regard for social convention, for moral decency, anything that might reflect poorly on the studio, on producers, on exhibitors, on anybody that they might work with. And basically, in a nutshell, they were saying no scandals. Fast forward to today, and morals clauses have taken a different form. The Writers Guild and Directors Guild explicitly forbid them. SAG, though, the Screen Actors Guild, has made no such statement. In 2011, when Charlie Sheen was fired from 2.5 Men, citing his morals clause, he was actually able to sue the studio, and he won because his morals clause only mentioned felonies, and he didn't have one of those. I think about Kevin Spacey or Chris Noth or Harvey Weinstein. As far as I know, none of those men were explicitly fired over morals clauses, but they were all fired because their behavior negatively impacted their show or their business. I'm pretty sure that the three of them were fired for sort of broader sexual harassment policies that applied to the whole company and not because of specific contractual language. I'll never forget the first time that I was made aware of morals clauses in the real world, or that I saw one in action. This would have been between like 2004 and 2008, and I was talking to a major Disney actress at the time, and it was like the day that she had discovered just how restrictive her contract was. And it was kind of shocking. Like, yes, we know that Disney is going to be more restrictive than a lot of other studios, but it wasn't just her projects that were being scrutinized. It was anything that might have her name attached to it. And it was her public persona, and it was how she was allowed to show up in the world. And she felt like she had no control over herself, no ownership over herself. And it was really staggering. And that brings us to an interesting paradox in the modern day, where being real and authentic is so prized, but studios want to control what that narrative looks like. Never before have we had so much access to stars through movies and TV and social media and all these ways that they have eyeballs on them 24/7. But that means that the lines between their public lives and their private lives are really blurred. And I think that means that morals clauses are inevitable. I do not think these things are going away. Studios will often have millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars riding on a single actor, and they're not just going to give up control that easily. They want to be able to take swift action whenever they need to take swift action. So it might seem draconian, it might seem old school or big brothery, but I think morals clauses are here to stay. So for actors, this little clause that started with Carl Laemmle has now lived for more than a century. It has survived scandals and blacklists and social media, and I think we're gonna see morals clauses come front and center more often in the near future. I wanna know if you think you would survive a job that had a strict morals code. Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget you can join with a paid YouTube membership for tons of bonus content. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.